Recently I did a video where I put frets into this neck. Now because the fretboard is bound, I had to cut the tang off the ends of the fret. And it turned out that I didn't have any fret tang nippers. I have in the past used end cutters that I've had ground down to a flat face, but these are Evo Gold frets, which are a little bit harder than nickel frets, and it was already a bit of a struggle to use the end cutters on the nickel. So I borrowed a set of Stumax fret tang nippers, which there should be some pictures appearing around me of the nippers and kind of showing you basically what I mean. If you've used them, which I'm sure a lot of you have, then, or at least seen them, then you know what they look like. It turns out they are, like a lot of guitar building tools to be honest, they are a modified version of a tool designed for something entirely different. They're actually for kind of nibbling sheet metal or plastic, or something sheet materially. That's a technical term. In fact, they're a modified version of this tool. Obviously, from the pictures, you'll see that they're black with rubberized grips and slightly nicer than these. So, after I returned that tool, I decided I wanted to get my own because they're really useful and make the job a lot easier. However, being a tight Yorkshireman, I decided that rather than spending whatever it is, Stumac charges, which, the disclaimer is coming here, it's probably cheaper in the long run and easier to just buy the ones that have been modified by the company that knows what they're doing. But I like to make my own stuff. So I bought these from Amazon. I will put a link in the description to these ones. There probably are others out there, but it's the specific type that has a little tooth up here and a flat plate. Now, the way that they cut is this here has an angled little tooth on it, which I will put better pictures of this up as well so you can see what I'm talking about, which cuts the tang off, but it has a slot cut in just next to that, which helps hold the fret in place. Now, Stumac do a couple of different sizes where the slot is actually a different size. The rest of the tool is the same, but the slot is sized specifically for whatever fret wire you're using. So I think they've got kind of a small, medium and large for obviously wider, narrower, taller frets and things. I tend to use one size of frets, so I don't need lots of different sizes. So I'm going to modify this and see if I can make my own version. So I'm going to do a little bit of looking at my pictures, and I'm going to do a bit of measuring, and then I'm going to come back and I'll probably have this disassembled so that we can go through and I can show you how I do it. I should probably talk through this bit, shouldn't I? Now, this is the bit that's got the little tooth, and as it was cutting on this outside edge, which is quite small and doesn't really give me enough space for the fret to sit in. So I'm flipping it round so it cuts on the inside edge, which gives it a bit more of a stable base. However, it's a bit fiddly, so I need to now put it all back together. So what I've done is taken it all apart, taken this out, and the little hinge pin I've taken out, flipped it 180 degrees so the tooth is on the inside, and now I'm just going to put it back together exactly as I took it apart. Or at least that's the theory. Let's see if it works. Right, now that that's back together, the tooth now cuts on this side, which is exactly what I want. That spring was fiddly. The next thing I need to do is cut a slot in this top plate, which needs to correspond with the fret wire that I want to use. So I have a piece here, which this edge of the fret wire, which is the flat face that sits against the fretboard, needs to sit hard up against the edge of this tooth, so that the tang is the only thing that gets cut. Obviously the closer and more comfortably it sits against there, the tighter it's going to cut the tang against the bottom of the fret. So ideally I kind of want that to be nice and snug. Now the best way to do that would be to have the exact shape of the fret wire cut into here, so that the tang just sits straight against the edge and that the fret wire itself is held perfectly flat in there. That's going to be a little bit too difficult, and to be honest, StewMac does a square channel in it, so that's what I'm going to do. I do, however, need to clamp this in a vise. So there we go. I require to do this a small file, which I had a box of somewhere, but I'm not sure where they went. So instead I'm going to get out some other small files. And I believe this plate is hardened, so this may take a little while. But all I need to do is cut a channel where I've marked that line. So I'll see you when I've done that. And then we'll test it. Right, so that's trimmed down. Let's pop it back on here. I'm going to screw it back in place because obviously we want to keep it nice and tight. I'm also going to drop the screw on the floor and go and hunt for that for probably about 10 minutes. I'll be back soon. No, it was quite easy to find. Let's be a bit more careful with that this time, shall we? So the tool is now reassembled. I'm going to grab some fret wire, which I'm also going to trim down a little bit when I remember where I put my end cutters. As I was saying, the Evo Gold fret wire is hard. So I've got a nice clean end on here. And if I try this, we have the point of the tooth here. Put the fret in the slot. And nip the tang. that works. So a quick recap. Step 1 is disassemble the entire thing. Step 2 is to rotate the cutting tooth 180 degrees. Step 3 is to reassemble everything except the top plate, and that includes putting the spring back in, which is, to be honest, the most fiddly part of this. But a pair of long nose pliers might actually make that a bit easier, and I used a drop of super glue just to hold it where I wanted it, which obviously the movement will break that super glue bond, but it just holds it in place whilst I put everything together. Step 4, cut a slot in this top plate which corresponds with the cutting face, so your fret sits with the bottom face of the fret wire level with this cutting face so that all it cuts is the tang. Step 5, get some fret wire and have fun snipping the tang away. There's an optional step 6 as well, which is to put some heat shrink tubing on the handles to make it a bit more comfortable, and it looks cooler. In conclusion, the answer to the question, can you make your own fret tang nippers? Yes, you can. Should you make your own fret tang nippers? Is it worth it to you? I mean, because of shipping and taxes, these cost me a hell of a lot less than buying the tool from Stu Macwood, and there was maybe half an hour of faffing about to make it do the job that I want. If that's worthwhile to you, go for it. If not, then just buy the tool, because it's just easier. I will, however, modify these. I'm going to put some kind of wrapping around the handles so they're a bit more comfortable to use. For me, I don't mind these. I like making my own tools. And usually they do sort of work. I wasn't quite as careful and precise as I really should have been cutting this slot, but it still works fine. If you look closely, where I've actually cut the slot does go back beyond the extent of the tooth a little. If I was going to do it properly, and I had proper metalworking tools kicking around, I would probably have chucked this up in a milling machine and run a perfect slot across where I wanted it. If you have access to all of those things, do it that way and put fancy engravings in the handle and fully customise your own set of fret tang nippers. If, like me, you've just got a couple of files and a vise, then you can. You don't have to. To be honest, the tool quality is probably a bit lower. The actual steel that's used for the tooth and things is probably higher quality on the Stu Mac tool, so it will last you longer. But for a budget, use it every now and then type tool, this is going to hurt my wrist a lot less than using the end cutters will, or did. It was quite painful after a while. And chances are these will go the same way as every other specialist tool in my workshop, and I will lose them and have to make another set before too long. That's my main reason for making my own stuff. They go missing. I don't want to spend a lot of money on things that are only going to vanish. And then I'm going to add a step 7 where I name the tool. I'm going to call it Nibbler, and because of that I'm going to go off and watch some Futurama.